You have been counting the wrong prize, my child. You've labeled what's left in your hands your portion after looking at it. You've seen the invoices, the holdups, the closed doors, and the years of poverty. And deep down, you started to think that the nice things had already been distributed before you got there. However, I can now assure you that your inheritance was not lost. It was retained. Time leaves no imprint, loss has no door, and there is a vault that no robber has ever accessed. And there's a section with your name scrawled over the top of it right now. You have been claiming that the pennies in your pocket represent your whole value. Your existence has been measured by what can be held in two weary hands. And all the while, an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, preserved in heaven for you, has been waiting undiminished since before the world was created, far above the grasp of any dread that comes to you in the quiet. So let me put it straight. You are not impoverished when a parent expresses what his child has needed to hear for years. You've been searching in the wrong place for your inheritance. It was reserved for you in paradise. I'm not asking you to work hard to get it. I'm not asking you to strengthen yourself or change the aspect of yourself that you find most embarrassing before you get close. All I'm requesting is your attention, and for your heart underneath your focus. Not so I can accept it, but so I can at last put what I've been keeping for you in it. Through this message, stay with me. And before it's done, I'll show you why, despite the fact that a part of your life has already been locked and kept where nothing can ever access it. Your heart continues to read your entire existence as poverty. This is not a hurry. As a guy puts down a heavy bag at the end of a long journey, let your breath out slowly and for a longer period of time than you drew it in. One slow breath that was completely expelled. There is nothing you need to do here. All you need to do is remain in the moment long enough to hear the truth. For a few minutes, let the world wait outside the door. It's had enough of you. You are visible to me. I observe how you protect what little you have, as though it may go the instant you stop looking at it. The mother determines which demand will go unfulfilled this time by tallying what is left over after paying the bills. The father feels worried he is failing the people he loves, even though he is working a second shift. The younger one of you silently decided that the excellent pieces had already been distributed before you, arrived while observing everyone else's full hands. The person who, before allowing themselves to relax, verifies the same figures twice. I am not unaware of any of this. I haven't missed a single instance where you went without so that someone else wouldn't have to. The person who is always last in line has a certain level of fatigue. You persuade yourself you were never that hungry as you give the youngster the bigger portion. You postpone the dream for an additional year in order to attend to the needs of others. You've quietly developed the habit of arriving last. At some point, you started to suspect that you are just meant to come last. Those things happen to other people, and you are the one that keeps the door open for them to enter. For years, I observed you doing this, and I was always aware of it. When something nice comes along, there's a part of you that cringes because a voice inside of you is already figuring out when it will be removed. With one hand, you savor the delight as the other waits for the bill. When the house calms down after a lengthy period of silence, you do the arithmetic again and come to the conclusion that whatever treasure there is in this world was never intended for hands like yours. I am also aware of the subtler manifestations of this anxiety, the ones you would never tell anyone. The inability to accept a gift without thinking about how to pay it back right away since owing makes you feel vulnerable. The way you can't find a place to land when someone says something kind to you. When someone offers to assist, you reply you're okay since getting seems like a debt and wanting feels risky. You've spent your entire life refusing to ask, shrinking yourself to the point where no one has to offer you anything and no one can ever take much away. You discovered how to refer to this strength. I can't even call it strength since I've seen how much it has cost you. I refer to it as the long ache of a youngster who, at a young age, concluded that the safest course of action was to have no expectations. You have observed other people's life through the eyes of a hungry person peering through a bright window. Their mornings are simple. Their doors are open. Blessing appears to intentionally neglect you and discover them by chance. You stopped expressing this out because you don't want to come across as ungrateful. You're worn out. You were taught throughout your life that the pantry was almost empty, and because beliefs are difficult to reach, you began to believe it. Beneath it all, in the silence you seldom allow yourself to enter, lies a question you have never asked out loud. Is there anything in this world that was genuinely meant for me? For me, not for the individuals I support or the ones I serve. You are certain you already know the answer, so you have been nearly terrified to inquire. So let me to kindly respond to your question with the reality that you have refused to accept. Indeed, there is. It was always there. Furthermore, it is far bigger than what you have been battling to save. However, I did not tell that narrative. Your sense of emptiness is not a judgment from me. It has nothing to do with how much I choose to offer you. You were given this narrative before you were old enough to ask questions about it. Since then, you have carried it about like a loan that you never had to pay. It didn't start with you, so listen to where that pain is coming from. Your early upbringing in a family where there was never quite enough, when love and lack arrived at the same time and were so entangled that you were unable to distinguish between them, instilled in you the impulse to gauge your value by what you could hold. A youngster learns a lesson that lasts for 50 years when they observe the food running low at the table. Don't have too many desires, since that's how you get injured. You now stand on that lesson. You referred to it as being realistic when you began defending the little things instead of aiming for the big ones. Fearful individuals who were only repeating what they had been given gave you the anxiety that you would run out. I'm asking you to give up this old inheritance so you can focus on the actual one. Take a time to relax your jaw, which you were unaware was tightened. Allow the rear teeth to separate. Observe how long you have been preparing for a loss that hasn't even materialized. I've been watching you fight a poverty I never once assigned to you, and I've been close enough to touch you all along. This is where the deception starts. That same anxiety painted the image of me that you carry. You discovered how to read me as a God who carefully distributes parts, determining if you deserve the bread for this season. The best goods are kept on a high shelf by a God to gauge your desire for them. A God who is cautious with you and giving to others. No matter how early you rise, there is a God whose benediction is a salary you are never quite able to achieve. I'm not like that. I've never been like that. Never once. I'm not standing over a locked storeroom determining if you deserve a crumb for your work this week. This is something I need you to feel in your chest, since everything depends on it. I am a father who has already written you into the will. You have spent your entire life conflating an inheritance with a wage, despite the fact that they are very different. One earns a pay. It is nervous. The job is weighed and measured by the hour, and it must be earned again tomorrow and every morning after that without stopping or taking a break. A wage may be withheld. If there is insufficient work, a wage may be withheld. A pay keeps a guy counting forever because the supply ceases to exist as soon as he quits working. A wage-earning man constantly observes the clock and the master's expression, questioning whether today was sufficient to earn bread tomorrow. You have been living with me in this manner, earning, calculating, measuring. reading every hard season as a sign you had fallen behind in some ledger only I could see, and rising the next morning to attempt to make up the difference. That is not at all what an inheritance is. You don't earn an inheritance. It has been received.
It's not nervous. It's safe. Since it was never initially connected to your performance, it is not evaluated in relation to your performance. A youngster receives it just for being a child. A son does not apply to be included in the will. A daughter does not earn her share by outperforming her peers, shedding the appropriate quantity of tears, or at last organizing her life. You didn't do anything to earn your own name, eyes, or hand shape. You won't accomplish anything to merit this either. Even before you breathed your first breath, it was already engraved into my family by birth. This is the line that dread cannot endure, so pay close attention now. Since the share does not fluctuate with the amount of work completed during the day, an heir can take a break in the middle of the task. It is possible for an heir to pass away on Tuesday and remain an heir on Wednesday, because belonging was never the price. An heir can endure a protracted dry season without ever questioning whether they have been written out of the family. The beginning was a sense of belonging. As a hired employee wishing to be retained, I did not invite you into my home. When you were a kid, I brought you in. Furthermore, the reward for a decent life was never what I am holding on to for you. It is a loved one's birthright. I'll let that go to where you are most exhausted. You've been putting in extra effort to win the love you currently possess, doing each morning in order to maintain a space that was provided to you at no cost. Imagine how much lighter the days would be if you were a member of the community rather than someone trying to get in. I'm not withholding that brightness from you until you behave appropriately. It is the straightforward reality of your circumstances, and as soon as you accept it, it becomes yours. Take note of how this fear has affected your giving as well. A person cannot offer freely if they think the supply is about to run out. They refrain. Their generosity is rationed. They keep one eye on the potential costs. However, since giving never jeopardizes a share that is already safely stored, an heir who is aware that the storehouse is full might offer without hesitation. Not only has your hold on your life prevented me from giving you what I want, it has silently closed your hands to anyone in your immediate vicinity. You'll be able to contribute in a way that used to scare you once you realize how much is kept for you. That is also a component of the inheritance. Write in the comments if this is reaching the part of you that you have been reluctant to accept. Additionally, the pinned comment above has 7 letters waiting for you while you are there. For the next 7 mornings, 1 each. Grab them. I want to read you a line that I wrote for you a very long time ago. Long before any of this was causing you anxiety, I didn't write it to be debated by academics in quiet hallways. I wrote it for the person who does the arithmetic while lying awake. The person who is certain the nice parts are gone. The person who gave up on expecting anything in return, and now simply offers prayers for those they care about, because it started to feel like greed to hope for their own life. I'm not trying to calm you with these lovely remarks. I'll leave you right where I found you. They are the documented truth concerning the true location of your treasure, recorded and kept in writing, so that you would have something stronger than your emotions to cling to on your worst day. Your emotions will inform you that the pantry is empty. You'll learn the truth from this. And long before your fear was established, the reality was. Thus, the dread is the newbie in this situation, not the reality. A small group of Christians who had lost nearly everything that the world considers wealth first heard these words. A large number of people had been forced from their houses. Some had seen their belongings confiscated. Their names were dishonored. The doors of their futures closed before them, similar to a door closing. In cities that did not want them, they were strangers. Having nothing to leave for a single child, they live in leased corners. These were persons who had no inheritance at all, by all apparent standards. After observing them, the world concluded that they had been excluded from all positive things. In that exile, they received a letter. It was read aloud by lamplight in a borrowed room to people who had every reason to think their share had been permanently stolen, and who were tempted in the same manner that you were tempted to gauge your entire worth by the empty space where your possessions had stood. Imagine them reaching closer to the lone tiny flame, listening for any word that would indicate their agony had not been deleted from the narrative. Some had kids on their laps and nothing else to do. Some were elderly and worried that they would pass away empty-handed. Some had nothing today, while others had once been comfortable, and that was a form of poverty in and of itself. They were just the kind of individuals I enjoy surprising and the kind of people the world ignores. It was written by a man who had once lost his nerve while watching a storm. Once he denied ever knowing my son because he was so terrified of dying. Of all people, he understood what it was like to feel as though he had lost his position, as if he had squandered his only opportunity and could never be relied upon for anything positive. Nevertheless, I had brought him back, returned a chunk that he was positive he had thrown away, and made him the one to inform others that their account with me had not been depleted by failure. Therefore, informed the man, I'm telling you right now, through the hand of a guy who had received a lot of forgiveness, what was truly being held far out of reach of every hand that had ever taken anything from them. I said this, according to 1 Peter 1-4. They were born again into an inheritance that was saved in heaven for you and was imperishable, undefiled, and unfading. Each word was picked to represent the precise dread you bear, so sit with each one. Imperishable. It cannot deteriorate in the same manner as anything you store away, not the money lost due to an emergency, not the security that deteriorates with age, not the pleasant season that always seems to end before you can enjoy it to the fullest. This does not deteriorate, regardless of what happens to everything else. No touch can contaminate it, and no treachery can tarnish it. Its value has not decreased by a single penny due to your error. And that includes the error you are most worried about, time still counting. This was unaffected by what you did, which you were confident disqualified you. While you were certain that you had corrupted everything, the inheritance remained pure. Unfading, it does not cause it to lose its color in the same way that all the other brilliant things in your life have gradually turned gray. Not the faded dreams, not the optimism you formerly carried into the upcoming year. This one maintains its hue. When you finally hold it, it is even more brilliant than the day I put it aside. Then, in the dark, the words that address all of your fears were stored in heaven for you. Listen to how the worry of running out is affected by that. It is not held in your shaky hands where it might escape your grasp on a bad day. It is not stored in a house that might burn down, a bank that might fail, or a body that might deteriorate. I save it in the one location in the universe where loss cannot enter. Additionally, it is reserved for you, not for the improved version of yourself that you always pledge to develop into. For you as you are, with your long math and weary hands. The final 2 words in a sentence are not decorative. Your name is inscribed across the top of a deed. It was never your hand's fault. Fear never told you that. As though everything hinged on your hold, you have guarded your share. Additionally, you were never able to grasp the actual peace at all. The inheritance was never kept in a location that would allow robbers to access it. A youngster does not carry the family wealth in their pockets, where it can be misplaced while traveling. Until the child is an adult, the father keeps it secure. The whole time it was in heaven, waiting with your name on it, sealed and undamaged. So take another look at the question that your heart is asking you in the dark. Why does my life continue to read like poverty? This is the solution. And it's easier than you thought. Because you were never informed that the inheritance had already been retained. It's not merited, not pending, it's not in danger. Retained. The real portion was never supposed to be in your hands at all. Yet you spent years counting the pennies in your hand and calling it your worth. You're not impoverished. You've never lived in poverty, not for a single day. You were only examining the one location where it was never stored. Stored in heaven, saved for you. Preserved beyond loss, maintained indefinitely, kept out of the reach of terror. The core of everything I'm saying to you is that word, so hold on to it. Not merited, not pending, not at your worst week's mercy. Retained. The one treasure that a cautious steward will protect with his life is referred to by the same name. The same term used by fathers to describe the present they set aside on the day of their child's birth and never let go of. And this alters the true meaning of your difficult times. The door shut. The funds that run out. Those who fled after taking what they could. What you lost was genuine. It wasn't the inheritance, though. The room where your actual portion is kept has never been broken into, thus none of it got there. You mourned as though someone had taken your treasure. However, the chambers that were looted never contained your treasure. No robber has ever been there before. I don't minimize what you lost. Both the costs and the grief were genuine. Even though you couldn't feel me there, I sat with you in it. But pay close attention to what I say. It wasn't the inheritance, but what you lost was real. The inheritance remains unaltered. It has never broken. For this reason, I asked for your heart right away. Not because I'm stealing something from you. I have never had to take anything from you. The only hands that are open enough to accept what I have been holding all along are the ones that eventually unclench, which is why I asked. You can't fill a fist. You haven't realized that I've been standing here with both of my hands open, just waiting for you to stop bracing and just receive, since you've had your hands closed for so long around so little. Know what I'm actually asking for when I beg for your heart. On a bad day, I'm not asking you to pretend to feel something you don't. I want access to the hidden inner room where you keep all of your anxieties about being abandoned. Please give me that space. When your heart is mine, you cease to be a tenant in your own life, worrying about the lease, and you become a son, daughter, an heir who resides in the house, knowing it was purchased and paid for. This is the part that you have been reluctant to wish for. I don't strip that room bare when you give it to me. I fill it. I take the nervous math and replace it with the tranquility you did not deserve. I remove the bracing and replace it with relaxation. I break the long-standing habit of not expecting anything and gradually train your heart to anticipate me instead. You've been afraid that if you give me your heart, you'll lose even more than you currently have. However, I don't empty a child's hands as a father. I simply empty them in order to replenish them with things that will never run out. I return more of what you give me, and no one can steal what I add. You don't owe me the heart. I enter through this door in order to bring everything else inside. For years, you have stood on the other side of that door, certain that whatever was on my side was meant for someone more worthy. Nobody was ever more worthy. A parent was waiting for the lock to release, and there was just you and a piece with your name on it. Recall the man who was hanging next to my son in his last moments, a criminal by his own admission, with empty hands and an irreversible record. In the final moments of a broken existence, he turned his face toward the only person who could grant him a piece of heaven, not because he had deserved one. What you were able to amass was never equal to your inheritance. It was equal to the amount my son had already paid in full when he gave up everything of his possessions' comfort, friends, and even his life so that yours could last forever. It is imperishable because of this. It is not dependent on your strength, which is exhausted by Wednesday. It is based on a love that has completed its task and cannot be reversed. Here's a little something you can use for the remainder of the week. To start, you don't need to feel wealthy or make a big commitment. You don't have to argue with the old worry the next time it comes up, the one that says you've missed your share, that the good parts went to other people, and that you'd better hold on tighter or lose what little is left. It is only fed by arguing. You merely need to respond with the silent word kept, that's all. Save for me in paradise. After that, carry on with your task and allow the word to work slowly beneath the day's cacophony. If you'd like, you can couple it with your hands. Let your fingers open rather than close when the panic strikes. For just one breath, when someone is ready to receive something, their palms do not defend it. Nothing is being thrown away by you. Instead of adopting a beggar's stance, you are adopting that of an heir. A hand kept open long enough starts to teach the heart that it is safe to receive, and the body learns what the mind is slow to believe. And allow your breath to assist you, how it initially assisted you when your chest begins to count once more. Release a single, slow, full breath. The manner you set down a weight you are tired of carrying. A sensation doesn't need to be forced. All you are doing is providing your body with a little practice of what your heart is learning. That you were never held by the holding. Furthermore, letting go is not the loss you were afraid of. Don't be hard on yourself if, during the day, your jaw reverts to its previous bracing. Just let it to soften once more. It's the way out of habit. You would put anything you picked up gently. You are practicing the reality that the holding was never what kept you safe each time you let go. You are safe because of me. I've always been. The first time you speak the word, you won't feel wealthy. The 10th time, you might not feel any different. This work is slow. Slow work is serious work too. Additionally, I don't rush anything. However, you'll find that the math in your head has become quieter about the 30th time. You never once opened the ledger during the entire evening. Around the 50th, you'll notice that nothing dropped when you let go of anything you were using both hands to protect. Later on, you'll discover that you haven't measured your value by what's left in the account for a full week, since you now know where your wealth is and that it can't be taken by a hand. My darling, you were never impoverished. You were merely an heir who hadn't read the will yet. The section is retained, was not lessened by your shaking, was not tarnished by your failure. It was not reached by your loss, it was not canceled by your fear. It was reserved for you in paradise. Amen. Listen to one final thing before you leave. If you're prepared to stop living as though the inheritance has been lost, leave a treasure comment. The 7 letters are waiting for you in the pinned comment if you need assistance carrying this fact into the next 7 mornings. The next word will find you where you are if you transmit this message to someone whose hands have been clenched around too little for too long. We're never supposed to determine your value on your own.